Me, Christiana Gaudet. My pronouns are she, her. I am your tarot fairy godmother, and welcome to a really fun class, Tarot Divination with the 4 elements. Whether you're watching live or watching the replay, this is a great class for wherever you are in your tarot journey or whatever deck you happen to use. Smile Soul 20, so nice to see you here. Thanks for being a member. Sarah, we have missed you. Long time no see. My temporary work project kept me from class for months. Yes, we noticed, but it finally ended on Friday. I hope it went well. Glad you're back. We missed you too. Thank you so much for being a member. Thanks for using members only emojis. Clumsy Clairvoyance, nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member. And thanks for being a moderator. So, Arlette, hey, how are you? So, people are coming in. So nice to see all of you coming into class. Claire C., nice to see you. Thanks for being a member. Glad you're here. So this is a really interesting class, I think. Hey, Gina, glad that you're here. Thanks for being a member. So when we learn tarot, we, of course, learn that each tarot card is associated with one of the 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. At some point in our metaphysical journey, whether it's through tarot, astrology, or magic, we learn Western occult tradition associations for the 4 elements, recognizing that to the 4 elements, we ascribe not only physical characteristics, but metaphysical characteristics. And this helps us in our understanding of tarot. It helps us in magic, and it helps us in our understanding of astrology. One thing I think is really super interesting is that if you look at indigenous, First Nations, spiritual cultures, even all around the world, everyone seems to have some concept that is like the 4 elements. I mean, in China, it's 5, right? They have 5 elements. First Nations here in the U.S. do work with the 4 elements, but their associations are a little different. But I think it's really cool that wherever you go in the world, there is some tradition that people came to a long time ago which recognizes that the 4 elements represent powers of life and are powers of life. And so when we work with the elements today, we're going to work with this idea that, yes, this is a very specific tradition, but this concept, this sacred concept that the 4 elements are magical and powerful. This is a universal concept, and that's really cool, right? All right. So, hello to all of you. I see a lot of you coming into the room. So glad to see you all. Peggy Lou Levens, thanks for being a member. Horace Van Dunn, so nice to see you. Thank you for being a member. Caroline, so nice to see you. So where you are, it must be like first thing in the morning or something, right? Thanks for being here with us. Oh, and Arlette, this is your first class. That is so great. And Dee Dee, so nice to see you here. And Dee Dee says, even the early Christian priests were taught the elements, as were all the early physicians. Absolutely. Now, what I wanted to do is just go through very quickly and do a very basic, for a lot of you, it's going to be a refresher. For some of you, it may be the first time that you're really looking at these concepts. But we're going to look at, what are the metaphysical attributes of the 4 elements. And let's go ahead and start. And as you can see, I've got 4 aces here, which are the 4 tools of magic: the sword, the wand, the cup, and the pentacle. If you do sort of, Western neo-paganism, Wicca, you may actually use these symbols in magic in casting a circle. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But let's go through and talk about the metaphysical associations for each of the elements. And I'm going to ask you to play along. Share your thoughts for each element, share your questions, but do me a favor because we will move quickly. We have a lot to cover in just an hour. So do me a favor, if you are here with us live, just tag, so if we're talking about air, tag it air. If we're talking about water, tag it water. Because it's going to move quick and otherwise I'm going to be confused. And, your tarot fairy godmother is increasingly more and more easily confused as the years go by. It is what it is. All right. So we're going to start with air. And we know that air is associated with the direction of east, which is very helpful if you're doing divination to find something, right? It's in the east. And then you can take a compass and look at your house, or where did someone go? They went east, yeah, it works. Okay, air is east. Air is related in most decks to the suit of swords. There are some decks and some magical traditions that will switch swords and wands, making air wands and swords fire. This is a legitimate tradition. You might find a deck that does it. One of my favorite decks that does it is Lisa Hunt's Celtic Dragons Tarot. But it's not the standard. It's not the norm. So we shan't speak of it again here tonight. But I just want to know that it's true, right? Nalini, Betty, thank you for being here. Thanks for being members. Justine, so nice to see you. Thanks for being a member. Thanks for being a moderator. So great to see everyone here tonight. Thank you. And again, if you are watching the replay, thank you for being here. Please do drop a comment or two or three. All right. So air associated with the suit of swords and the direction of east. Air is about the powers of the mind, thought, communication, technology, intelligence, our curiosity, our words. All of these things are related to the element of air. Why are so many of the air cards so dastardly? Thinking about the 3 of Swords, the 8 of Swords, the 9 of Swords, the 10 of Swords, the 7 of Swords. Well, because the truth hurts, right? And because dishonesty hurts, and because our thoughts hurt, and because we hurt ourselves and each other with words, right? But that's what you want to think about. If you get a spread that is loaded with those, 10 of Swords, 9 of Swords, we don't love to see those cards, and it could indicate a great deal of pain. It could indicate some real difficulty. But we also want to think about how much of that is what you got going on in your head. How much of that is other people's words? How much of that is words you're saying to yourself, right? It's just air. It's just air. All right. And if you have any thoughts about air or swords, tag them air or swords, and go ahead and share thoughts or questions. Now, let's move on to fire in the south. The direction is south. Fire is everything that burns within us. It is passion, it is creativity, it is sexuality, it is excitement, it is anger, it is all of those things, all of our passions. So Dee sees air as social behaviors, probably because of communication, that makes sense, certainly. So with fire, spirituality, and I'm thinking about that, Dee, like manners, using your manners, and how pissed off we get if people don't have good manners. I love that. I've not really heard that before in that context, but it makes so much sense. Air, social behaviors. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, Justine, would it be correct to say that the air element is associated with truth? Absolutely, truth and untruth. And the arguments that we have about what is true and what is not true. Absolutely. Integrity, truth, lack of integrity. Absolutely. Okay, so fire, everything that burns within you. That can be your motivation. That can be your spirituality. That can be your creativity. That can be your passion. Sarah, Air, thoughts, ideas, contemplation, communication, and full of hot air. Sure. Right, and D speaks of Libra, which is an air sign, being about manners. Absolutely. Very good. Okay, water in the West, associated with the Suit of Cups. Water is about our emotions, matters of the heart. Certainly romance, but also any sort of attitude or feelings that we have, not just romantic ones. Relationships, family, our flow, how we work with energy, the flow of energy. And there is creativity here too, because we know how much creativity is born of emotion. It is interesting. I've always been taught fire is creative. But if you think about it, there is really creativity in all of the suits and all of the 4 elements. Because with air, we think about our inspiration, and air can be about writing, right? And you think about water and think about the joke that every great song Taylor Swift ever wrote was because she was breaking up with someone. Now, to date myself, the Fleetwood Mac Rumors album, they're clearly their best album, in my opinion, because they'd all broken up with each other, and yet they stayed together as a band, right? So we know how emotion feeds creativity. Now, Pentacles in the north. The direction is north. Pentacles is earth. Hey, Ashley, nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Pentacles is earth, and earth is material goods, everything that is material. So it's the physicality of things. It's money, certainly, and early tarot, and in some decks still, it's the suit of coins. But it's resources. It's all resources, right? So it's going to be money and time and energy, physical well-being, wealth, health, home, all of the physical stuff, material stuff. Okay, let's see. Sarah says, for wands, action, motivation, emotions, and gut reactions. Sure. So talk to me, Sarah, about the difference between wand emotions and cup emotions, fire emotions and water emotions. Talk to me about that. For D says, water, mood fluctuation. Sure, absolutely. Clumsy clairvoyance, air. Your words can also cut like a blade, a sword. Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. So we see, the different attributes of the 4 elements, and my argument is that there is nothing in life that is not encompassed within these 4 elements. Nothing in life. And some things are more than one thing. Like we can, as I said, I see creativity in all of them, even with Pentacles bringing something into being. And, we did our Venn diagram class, right? So in the Venn diagram of swords and wands, of air and fire, there is inspiration and ideas. The Venn diagram of wands and cups, there can be feelings and emotions. But, that's the question, man. Are you really in love, or do you just want to get laid? There's the question. And Justine said, I originally learned water is creativity, like in an artistic sense, but I see creativity in the wands too, in a different sense. Can't put my finger on the difference, though. And this is something we really want to contemplate, not necessarily all tonight, but over time. Over time. Hey, Sabrina, nice to see you. Here we are on Roku. So cool. So, when we think about the 4 elements, certainly, they help us understand these energies in the cards. Or if we're talking about astrology, you know the element of your sun sign or your moon sign, your rising sign. That helps you understand, how much water do you have in your chart? How much earth do you have in your chart? It helps you understand, right? And Sarah, with the truth-untruth piece with swords, do you think it has to do with upright or reversed, or it could be any position? That's a really depends thing, reader to reader. Certainly, I could say we are telling the truth. We are not telling the truth. Yeah, I could absolutely see it that way. But I could also see this in a particular position, like the truth matters. Make sure you know what the truth is. So it is very contextual and depends a lot on your style and how you see it. Absolutely. Oh, good. I like that, D. Water is more inward. Wands is more outward. So water more inward, fire more outward. That makes complete sense. So there are also those who believe that the elements are actual entities. In some forms of Wicca, we actually call on the guardians of the watchtower to bring themselves to us. So we are literally invoking elements, bringing their energy, the idea that they are actual spirits that can come to us. Betty, cups or water more subconscious, pentacles more conscious. Sure. What you think about and then bringing it into reality. Absolutely, yes. So, when we talk about how we work with the elements, this is meant to be a very operational class. We talk a lot about the elements in terms of how we understand the cards, but what do we actually do with it? How do we work with the elements, with the cards? And Sarah says, wands fire versus cups water. For wands, I think of gut or perhaps knee-jerk reactions, instinct, sure. And cups are intuition and true emotions rather than emotional reactions. Whoa! Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Right. No, that totally makes sense. I love that. And I think this process of thinking about, how are these things alike and how are they different? You know me, I love the Venn diagram. And that's kind of what we're doing is, so there's emotions in both of them, but how are they different? This is the, I am so pissed at you right now. And this is the, let me process this. Right, Horace Van Dunn, the creatures of the creatures of the elements. You've listed the creatures of the elements. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. Hey, Febborn. Nice to see you. Oh, man. Now you're going to, oh, yes. In tarot, does water put out the fire and air on earth? No movement, earth remains. So there is, and if you work with the Crowley deck, I'm looking at you, Sarah. If you work with the Crowley deck especially, or decks that are inspired by Crowley, this is really a thing. It's called elemental dignities. And the idea is that some elements are friends, some elements are enemies, and some elements are neutral. This is not a system that I use, therefore it is not a system that I can teach, but I promise you, it is a system that a lot of readers use, especially if you work with Crowley. And if you like just come on YouTube sometime and just put in tarot elemental dignities, you will find some great discussions about it. Absolutely. All right. So direction. Arlette wants me to go over the directions again. So air in the east, wands in the south, water in the west, earth in the north. Hey, Marion, nice to see you. I know it's really late where you are. Absolutely. All right. So when we talk about operationally how we work with the four elements in tarot divination, let's start with the idea of before we do divination, we do some kind of sacred space. We create some kind of sacred space. And I think a lot of people actually do invoke the four elements to create their sacred space. I'm laughing at some of y'all. Gee, I'm pissed and you will loudly hear about it. Maybe I'll even throw something fire. Right. And Sarah says, interesting thinking about elements in the body. Wands and cups are both considered to be in the gut, air in the head, and pentacles in the hands. Sure. Although pentacles is also at the root, right? So there's all that. All right. So to begin a reading, we all have and we all develop our particular ways of creating sacred space. But an easy thing to do is to do an invocation with the 4 elements. Because if you think about, how will each of the 4 elements help you do a great reading? We invoke air if you're reading for someone else so that you can speak clearly and be understood. Even if you're reading for yourself, that you may see the truth, that you may speak truth. We invoke fire, that we may be in that space of spiritual understanding and spiritual passion, and that we may be able to sort of enter, not even sort of, to enter that zone where the fire rises within us and we can share that information. Water, let everything we say come from a place of love and healing. And let us find actionable and practical solutions. So that's one way of using the 4 elements to begin a reading. Now, I am making an argument that the cards that most clearly speak of their element are the aces and the court. Every single card has an elemental association. But I think that we can sort of illustrate how we talk about the elements, how the elements give us actually what to say in our divination, what to learn, what to know from our divination. That if we look at the court cards and the aces, we have a really clear expression of each element in these cards. So I thought that would be fun to look at. So D is going through anger in each of the elements. Right, I'm pissed and I'm cutting off your allowance, Earth. Yeah, no, seriously, makes sense. But if you were to say to me which of the elements is like, okay, if you're looking at how we use each element or what each element would be in reaction to anger, I completely agree. But which element is anger? It's fire. Clearly. So, so there's a difference there between the elemental reaction to something versus the actual thing. And in talking about anger, the actual thing, fire. Without a doubt. All right. But that's a good exercise, D, just in terms of different reactions, elemental reactions, if you will. So, when we do a reading with tarot, we are in some ways giving voice to the cards. And one way to do it is to think about giving voice to the elements, which Dee just did like very nicely right there. Betty, sometimes I imagine a circle with 4 doorways. Ask each guardian or guide to come in their particular door to help me see, feel, and know. Help me see, hear, feel, and know. I love that. That's beautiful. Very, very good. So that idea of invocation to create sacred space, that makes so much sense. Hey, 7C Mystic, so nice to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for the super sticker. Really appreciate it. So, when we do a reading, typically we have more than one card. And one of the things that we look at in a spread of cards, in a group of cards, is predominance versus absence of an element. And obviously, if an element is predominant, there's a lot of whatever. You're doing a spread, there's a lot of. 7C's Mystic, you came home early unexpectedly. Yay! And thank you for being a member here. We really appreciate you. So if there's a lot of an element, that's a predominance. If you have 3 of the elements and one element missing, you want to look at what's missing. So imagine that you're reading for someone who really doesn't know any of this. Like if we were reading for each other, we could say, hey, there's no air here. What does that mean to you? And we could have that conversation. But if you're reading for someone, like most of our clients, if you say there's no air here, they're like, oh, but I can breathe fine. They don't understand what that means. We have to you take the elements and put them into operational terms. So, again, tag the elements, but what are you encouraged to do? Give me some action items. Action items for each of the elements. For example, if there's a lot of swords, a lot of air, what might you say? You might talk about writing. You might talk about communication. What else might you talk about? Give me action items, tag it by element. What action items? What are we being told to do or pay attention to? Susan Brady, nice to see you. Always call upon the elements to create sacred space, a shamanic technique. Also a Wiccan technique. Yes, absolutely. And everybody likes Betty's doors. That's a good one. Yeah, Sarah, the missing element is important. And like, for example, like if you get 3 aces in a spread, what's that 4th ace and why, what's missing there? So, when we're talking about minor arcana cards, if you get 3 of any number or rank, think about the one that's missing. If you're doing, a whole spread and an element is missing, why is that element missing? Right now, though, we're talking about predominance. What does a predominance of each element get? What action items does it give you? And Seven Seas Mystic, I really like Betty's doors. I'm going to have to try that. Yeah, it's fabulous. One of the first things I notice is what element is not present. Right. And we're going to want to talk about that. What does it mean when an element is not present? But let's talk about a predominance. So a predominance of swords might mean that there's a lot of stress or a lot of worry. It might mean that communication is really important. It might mean that it's time to write, which is part of communication. It might mean that you're working with technology or you have to do a lot having to do with technology. What about a predominance of wands? Maybe there's athleticism, or there needs to be. Maybe there's a lot of creativity. Let's see what other people are saying. So Justine, directive for air. Be mindful, be thoughtful, look after internal dialogue that is no longer serving. Oh, very good. Look after internal dialogue that is no longer serving your highest good. Clear your head. Oh, very good. And so clumsy clairvoyance is going into what's missing, absences. If I'm doing a reading with no earth, perhaps I'd say something about there needing to be some grounding or realism surrounding the issue. Right. And so when there's a lot of swords, Dee might say, this reading is about how we're thinking about something and how our thoughts may affect the outcome. Very good. Katie Kondo, nice to see you. Thanks for being here all fashionably late and whatnot. And thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Okay, so Seven Seas Mystic, air, do breath work, do journaling, writing to clear your head, make lists that are concise. Beautiful. Good action items. So Dee says if you see lots of swords, the people may be very critical in their thoughts. Marion, swords, air dominance, there's too much communication, right? Could be. Now, Susan Brady, if you see wands and swords together, how are you expressing your frustration? Absolutely. Good. What if you see a lot of wands, a lot of fire? So again, call to creativity, call to athleticism, call to action, certainly. Sarah, question about predominance. Do you think that you have... Sorry, I just overscrolled. Give me a minute. Coming back, coming back. Where did we go? Okay, here it is. Question about predominance. Do you think that if you have predominantly one suit in a spread that it means you have too much of that quality or that you need more of that quality? Oh, see, that's so interesting. And same thing with absence, man. Maybe it's absent because you're all good. You don't need any more. You know, I'm not going to say one way or the other. That's a total gut thing. That is a total intuitive thing. It might be, okay, this is what you are focusing on right now. It might be, this is what you need to focus on right now. It might be, too much, enough is too much, oh my gosh. And so be open to that. And same thing with absence. I would not say that there should be a firm rule that predominance will always mean this or absence will always mean that. It always means pay attention and go with which cards they are. And because, you know, for example, if you've got the Ace of Swords, the Swords Court, the Six of Swords, you know, that's going to be very different than if you have like the 8, 9, 10 of Swords, right? Or the 3 of Swords, you know, so which one, you know? And it may just be not that it's too much or too little, but hey, this is the focus right now. This is what we need to talk about. This is what we're here to talk about. Okay. And D says too many swords can be truth without mercy sometimes. Okay, Justine, majority fire, lots of physical activity going on. Be careful not to burn out inner flame. Make sure you are focusing and directing your energy where is needed and not elsewhere. Rest, recharge. Sure. But what about also, you know, are you working on a creative project? Are you, you know, like what might it call you to do? And Sarah, yeah, it's predominant. Maybe it depends on the questions. Yeah, it's all about context, for sure, always. Katie Kondo, an abundance of swords can be overthinking. An abundance of wands can be watch out for your emotions, don't lose your temper. An abundance of cups, you're all in your feelings. A lot of pentacles, you're just there in the third dimension. So pay attention to predominance and pay attention to absence, right? Now, let's talk a little more about directives, clear directives. I think sometimes the best readings give us very clear direction. Let's see, Seven Seas Mystic, too much fire, needing healthy outlets for anger or aggression. Exerting too much energy can lead to burn-off, popping off and taking actions too quickly without considering. Clumsy clairvoyance, the absence of water in a romance reading could indicate someone's heart's not really in it. Yeah, absolutely. And D says lots of air calls one to compare and contrast, to analyze. Yep. Seven Seas Mystic, being too dramatic or causing too much drama, feeding off the chaotic energy. Betty Flesher, in a love reading, abundance of pentacles, not much love. So I'm going to say it depends on which pentacles. It may be there's plenty of love there, but we are building our house and we are focusing on our house. It may mean that, you know, yes, perhaps we need to remember to sort of come together and share love to be more affectionate. You know, like we need to sort of think about the difference sometimes between love and affection. Because like you may see, so, okay, say there's not a lot of cups, but you've got the Four of Wands, you've got the 10 of Pentacles, you've got the Ace of Swords. So we could have like this great situation, but maybe we don't have so much time or energy or even skill to know how to share affection. Doesn't mean we don't love each other, but the issue becomes affection. Okay, Justine, majority fire, creativity, checking in with your spirit guides, utilizing your energy to be driven and determined as you pursue your truest passions, what is closest to your heart. Channel it appropriately. Sure. So let's look at, we've got these 20 cards here. And again, my theory, and disagree if you would like. I'm perfectly okay with disagreement. Disagree if you like. But I'm going to say that the clearest and truest expressions of the elements will be found in the aces and the court cards. And that is a real clue sometimes about how to interpret these cards from an elemental perspective. So, what do each of these cards tell us to do? And this is not by any means definitive nor comprehensive. This is what I'm thinking about right now, this minute. And you may see it differently, but it's a fun exercise for each of you to do when you have a little bit of time. Before I go there, D says air is logic and cleverness. Very good. Excuse me. Seven sees mystic. I actually really want to see pentacles when I'm doing a love reading. For me, it's an indication that this has potential where there's already something firmly rooted in long-term stability. Right, and that neither of them are going to be like sitting with their ass on the couch all day playing video games when they should be out working. Okay, so directives. I'm going to run through this really quickly, and I just want you to think about, do you agree, do you disagree? And I might disagree with myself in a particular reading. Okay, Ace of Swords, tell the truth, do the right thing, share your ideas, look for the truth. Page of Swords, communicate what's on your mind, say what's on your mind, and maybe seriously do some writing, maybe go to school to do something that you're really good at, maybe something having to do with technology. Knight of Swords, whatever you're doing, you better do it fast. And you better pursue what you know to be right. And if you're not sure what's right, then you better pursue figuring that out, and you better do it damn fast. Queen of Swords. You're going to have to sit with the truth, whether you like it or not. The truth is what the truth is, and you have to sit with it. King of Swords. Be an example for others. Say the right thing. Do the right thing and let other people see it. Okay? Let's go on to Wands. Ace of Wands. Figure out what you're most excited to do. Start a new project. Nurture the energy of your own vitality. Page of Wands. Let people know what you enjoy. Maybe go to school. Maybe if you have a business, you should have a good web page for that business. And if you go to school to do something that really is passionate, for you, something that you really believe in and care about. Knight of Wands, it would be a good idea for you to have some fun. Be careful, though, about knowing when it's time to have fun and when it's not, when it's time to play and when it's time to work, because you might be blurring those lines just a little bit. Queen of Wands, it is time for you to nurture the things that you care most about. King of Wands, it is time for you to lead others in the exploration of skills, abilities, passions, creativity, spirituality. All right. Ace of Cups. You need to open your heart. You need to heal your heart. You need to be ready for a new relationship. Page of Cups. You need to be open to hearing the messages of love that are all around you, from spirit, from the people that you care about, and you need to be willing to speak to others in a loving way. Knight of Cups, do not be afraid to pursue love. Queen of Cups, it is good to be a sensitive person, but know that you are a sensitive person and do what you must to honor that sensitivity, but also protect yourself. King of Cups. Be in that space of the high vibration of unconditional love. Know that that is the greatest power. Ace of Pentacles. Might be time to look for a new job. Might be time to try a new diet. Might be time to take care of yourself in a different way. Page of Pentacles. You know, there might be a conversation that you need to have about money and who's paying for what and how that's all working for you. Might be a good idea to go to school to learn a trade. Might be good to go to school to learn something that is very likely to make money or even has to do with dealing with finances. Knight of Pentacles. Take your time, but definitely pursue your career. This is where your focus must be. Queen of Pentacles. Now is the time to take care of things. Pay attention to your bank account. Pay attention to your job. Pay attention to your home. Pay attention to your well-being. Pay attention to the well-being of others. King of Pentacles. You need to be the one to make sure that everything is stable, that everything is okay, that the bills are paid, that people are doing what they're supposed to do. You're the one. You have to take care of it. So that's a way that we can look at how we give voice to the elements. You could do that with all 78 of the cards. I decided not to put you through that. But I thought it would be fun to take specifically the aces and the courts, really for two reasons, because I think they do express their element so strongly. And I think sometimes we get a little lost with what to do with these cards. When we know that they are people, that's easy. Oh, look, there's your father. Yeah, that's easy. But when we don't, sometimes it's hard to know what to do with them. Okay, let me go back and see some of the comments here. 7C Mystic, regarding pentacles in a love reading. I actually really want to see some pentacles when I'm doing a love reading. It's an indication that this has the potential where something is already firmly rooted in long-term stability. Maybe I already said that. Justine, court cards are the elements personified, absolutely. Justine, the pages will indicate the manner in which you need to approach can I talk? And that's funny, we're talking about pages, which are communication, and I get all tongue-tied, right? The pages will indicate the manner in which you need to approach an endeavor of some kind, depending on the element's temperament. D, the aces, the root, the courts, the expression of the element and personality. I love that. I love that. Clumsy clairvoyance. Love reading with pentacles can equate stability and family. Okay, D, ace of wands, natural development or ability. D, also ace of swords, learned development, invoked energy and ability. All right. Clumsy clairvoyance, page of pentacles, be the student, page of cups, be supportive. Absolutely, absolutely. So, what we have talked about so far is recognizing that the elements are descriptors, but they're also powers, right? And Peggy Lou, is the Ace of Cups overflowing in stopping love? I wouldn't think. Clumsy clairvoyance, page of wands, be happy, page of swords, be thoughtful and swift. Sure. 7C's Mystic, that run through was awesome, helpful, good. I was hoping it was. So now, let's talk about the elements in describing personality. We do that a lot because of astrology. And when we talk to each other, man, that person is all fire. That person needs some earth, right? That's our code. That's how we talk to each other. But again, the problem is if we're reading for other people, we have to put these things in words. So, if we are talking about an air personality, a water personality, a fire personality, an earth personality, what is that? What is that? So go ahead and tag those things and tell us. And if you want, tell us, like, do you know the elements of your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign? What are those elements? It may be one element, two elements, or three elements. And what does that say about you? Okay, let's see. Oh, I love this. Sarah, what do these cards tell us to do? For me personally, the swords. Slay, girl! Shoot for the stars. Wands, grind and do the damn thing. Fair. I love it. I love it. Sarah, cups, give and thou shalt receive. I love it. Pentacles, celebrate what you've earned through your hard work. Beautiful. Love it. Mystic's Haven, in reading for myself, I see the court cards as aspects of myself, imagining them as riding in a car. The pages and the knights are the kids in the back seat. The queen and the king are driving and navigating. I love it. Okay, so Justine, Earth personality is somebody who is a homebody and stubborn. All right. Hey, Jake, Sobs Rory, nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member and a moderator. Tarot personality, I come up as the King of Cups a lot, not just for myself, but when other people read for me. I'm a Cancer Sun, Libra rising, Aries moon. So you are water, air, fire. And so then I'm going to say, like, okay, so that's three. There's no earth. And, you're never going to have all four, right, with just those three things. But then I wonder, with no earth, like, how does no earth show up for you? And Justine, your sun is water, your ascendant is air, your moon is air, lots of air, right? So let me think about mine for a minute. So I'm Scorpio, so that's water. My rising is Leo, which is fire. And my moon is Virgo, earth, so I've got no air. How are you going to breathe with no air, right? That's interesting. I'm mostly fire and water, some air, and lack earth. Mystic's Haven, my signs are earth and water. They make mud, right? So, but how do you say that to someone? Like if I were talking to someone who it was clear in their cards or in their astrology that the lack of air was a problem. How does that problem show up? What are they doing? Okay, if the lack of air is a problem, maybe they're not thinking, maybe they're not communicating. Maybe they are like, they keep themselves so busy, they don't want to be alone with their thoughts, right? And I think a lot of us here are overthinkers, so that's hard for us to think about. But there are people who don't think, don't speak, don't communicate, right? And so that's an interesting thing. So, when you have a lot of something, a little of something, like what does that really say? Like if there's a lot of earth, okay, really grounded, that could be really great, but maybe not imaginative, maybe structured, maybe very structured, maybe very focused on the practical, but not on the emotional. Okay, so Arlette, water, water, earth. Water, water, earth. Scorpio is also water. Yeah. And Justine, I can so get the earth vibe from me. Right. Well, yeah, I've got that crunchy hippie thing going on, right? It's there. Jake, I found out today that I have a very similar chart to Courtney Love. It all makes sense now, right? Mystic's Haven, very little air in my chart, and I'm as quiet as can be, right? So Peggy Lou, so you're water, fire, earth, just like me, different signs than me, except we both have that Leo rising, but you've got exactly the same elements as I do. So Sarah, Pisces, Scorpio, Aquarius, right? No fire, earth, right? So there's that. Now, one more thing, and this sort of takes us out of the divination. But before I go there, I just want to say, the real purpose of this conversation, yes, understanding the elements helps us understand the cards. And that cannot be understated. There's so much, so much. That's right, Peggy Lou, same year of birth too, right? But my real goal today is to really think about how we give voice to this in an understanding way, right? How we can say to someone, you know what the right thing is to do, and you have to do it. Or maybe you need to figure out, let's talk about what is the right thing to do. Rather than saying, okay, man, there's like a really strong air energy here, right? To give a good reading, we have to speak in the language that people understand. And I think, too, even when we're reading for ourselves or for each other, the more we can use the practical words, the more we can be actionable in our readings for ourselves, in our readings for others, in our readings within community, the better we are, Go to school, have that communication. So that was sort of the purpose here. But the other piece of all of this, that I really believe that magic and divination go hand in hand. That divination itself is a magical process. That's why we do that invocation in the beginning, right? And when we find that there is a lack, that there is a need, the person who's having a hard time quieting their mind, or the person that's having a hard time finding their voice, or the person who's having a hard time finding a job. These very cards will help. I was reading for someone today who was super shy. And they really need to find their voice and use their voice and advocate for themselves. So you can actually, with the cards that come up, you can take that card and sort of give them that energy and say, here, look, this card gives you the courage to speak. This card gives you the imperative to speak. You must speak. And sometimes I'll even take these cards like, here, hold this against your throat and breathe for a minute. To find your words, to find your voice, to advocate for yourself, right? Or for the person who really is heartbroken, or for the person who has a hard time accessing their emotion. This card brings healing to your heart. Hold the card to your heart, breathe with it. This card opens you up to love. So that's another thing that can happen in this process. So we are down to our last 8 minutes. So the floor is open for your questions, your comments. Maybe we want to look at, how the elements show up in other cards. And remember that the major arcana have elements too, and that can be important too. Here, the joy of victory is such a fiery thing, right? And this card can encourage you to win, to do what you have to do to win, right? Okay, so just going back to the comments. Sarah, overthinkers. So true. One of the biggest issues I never understood about Paul was why he was so out of touch with his emotions when it was so natural for me. He is super Aries and fire. Yep. And Clumsy Clairvoyant says, yes, this is how we can translate our readings, right? Right? Okay. Did you say once you identified as the Queen of Swords? I mean, in that moment, I might have. But so here's my magical queen story. I'm Scorpio. My native court card is the Queen of Cups. But when I first started out many, many years ago as a reader, I was shy and I was sensitive. I mean, I still am, right? But that wasn't going to work for me. So I went to my rising sign, Leo, and I said, Queen of Wands, that's me. And I started identifying with the Queen of Wands, and eventually I really became that person. And Yolanda, how does the retrograde affect the elements in the reading? Okay, so first of all, I think you're talking, great to see you, by the way. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member here. I think that you're talking specifically about Mercury in retrograde. Mercury is the fastest moving planet, so it goes retrograde 3 times a year. Every planet goes retrograde, though. And a Mercury retrograde doesn't really affect the elements per se, but here's the thing. Mercury can make it harder, when Mercury is in retrograde, can make it harder for us to make connections. So if we need to take a little longer to sort of puzzle out what's going on, or if it's harder for us to form our words or to really hear what's going on, that can be a Mercury retrograde thing. But on the other hand, Mercury retrograde is a great time to do a reading, because when you think about a Mercury retrograde, it is a great time to review. It is a great time to rewrite, great time to rethink. So there's that, absolutely. And yeah, Yolanda, Mercury and communication, exactly. Okay, here's a great question from Arlette. If someone wanted to get better acquainted with the cards and what they represent, what is a good practice? So my favorite is card of the day, not as a reading, but just pull a card. Okay, this is the card I'm going to study today. And so you pull that card, you can Google on it, think about it, journal on it, write on it, see how it shows up in your day. And so now you've got a better relationship with that card. And just do one card a day, right? Write them all down in a journal as they go, and that will really help you learn the cards. Let's see, Sarah. Using the cards as physical tools for manifestation. Sometimes I put them on certain chakras I want to bring specific energy to. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Dee says, yes, fire element provides confidence and courage. Yes, which is exactly what I needed. That is exactly it. Exactly. Okay. Sarah says, okay, water and rivers are flowing through so many cards that are not cups. What do you think about that? I think of the journey of the fool flowing through the whole 78 cards. So traditionally, it is actually the high priestess. It is the subconscious. If you look at the high priestess in the weight deck, her robe turns into water and flows off the page. And so when you see waters and rivers, especially in the major arcana, but really anywhere, think about the depth of the subconscious that the high priestess calls us to. There you go. But you're right, it is also the journey of the fool. The fool is flowing, the fool flowing through. You're right, absolutely. Dee Dee, you're the Queen of Wands with that Queen of Cups ability to listen and be emotionally supportive. Yeah, and I will cry with you during a reading if that is appropriate, and sometimes if it's not. And Clumsy Clairvoyant says, yes, meditate on your card of the day. And Jake, I've always viewed the High Priestess as the woman in the world card. Perfect. So my friends, we're in our final 2 minutes. I want to thank you so much for joining me here. If you're watching in replay, thank you so much. Please leave a comment. I really appreciate all of you. I appreciate you being here and sharing this journey with me. Thank you for your insights. Thank you especially to the moderators for helping out. Thank you to the members. Sabrina Luna, thank you so much for the super sticker. Really appreciate that. Thanks to everyone who helped out with super chats and super stickers. Much appreciated. Thank you for everyone, new subscribers. Really appreciate you as well. What else? We've got a members only class coming up. I think it's on the 22nd, I think. We're doing tarot and chakras. So if you're a member, make sure you got the link for that. We'll do that. And we're going to do a YouTube tarot meetup at the end of the month, which is exactly the same thing as Global Tarot Circle. We're just doing it again because people asked for that. And I'll be getting the October stuff up really, really soon. I really appreciate all of you sharing your thoughts and your ideas in all of this. You know, I always say there's no right or wrong here. There's no tarot police. But it's really nice to hear everybody else's wisdom. I always feel like I come away from this with some interesting ideas that I would not have thought of before. And so thank you all, not only for taking the time to be here, but for sharing your own wisdom with all of us. I think that's one thing that makes this community really special, is that y'all are smart and have so much great stuff to share, and I really, really appreciate it. I will be here to, let's see, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Wednesday, so the newsletter comes out, that's right. So if you don't get the Tarot Topics Weekly newsletter, you can find it on my website. It comes out on Wednesday. And remember, the WDA, World Divination Association Awards. I'm nominated in 2 categories. The link is in the community thread. Please vote. Really, really appreciate your vote and your support. My friends, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. I will look forward to seeing you soon. Be good.